Good evening. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Good evening. I just want to welcome everybody to the Lee County Board of Commissioners meeting for February the 18th. Appreciate everybody coming out here tonight. Got a good crowd, full house. At this time, Commissioner Connect is not here right now, so if everyone would stand. I was going to offer a moment of silence. If we have a moment of silence, and then we'll have our pledge. Okay, thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, are there any additional items to be added to the agenda?
I'll go first.
Okay.
And we need to add an item that's before the commissioners right now. It's the replacement of flooring at the Lee County Government Center on the fourth floor.
Okay.
Received bids, and it's an amount that needs to be approved by the board.
Okay, so just put that as C under new business?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that okay? All right. And everybody should find that at your place. Okay, Ms. Parrish?
Yes, if we can add 3 items under closed session. So item B, if we can add an item to protect the attorney-client privilege in reference to the opioid litigation matter. C, if we can add an item to protect the attorney-client privilege in reference to Little River LLC versus Lee County and others. And if we can add item D to go into closed session to discuss a personnel matter.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, approval of consent agenda.
Move to approve. Madam Chair,
Sure. Yes, sir.
can I request under new business the request for lease renewal with Deal Real Estate for gymnastics to consent agenda?
Okay, any questions or discussion on that? Okay. All those in favor of moving item B, new business, to the consent agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, now, motion to approve consent agenda as amended. Is there a motion?
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. We'll move right into our joint public hearing with the Lee County Planning Board. And for information purposes, Ms. McNeil, and that's on page 47 of your agenda.
You're fine.
Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners, Planning Board members, and staff. Planning staff has received a rezoning request from Mark Laskowski to rezone 2 tracts of land fronting Center Church Road from residential to commercial as the first step in the process to either market or redevelop the site in a commercial manner. The subject property is illustrated on the screen. It's comprised of 2 tracts of land that are developed with 4 structures that are described as follows. Tract 1 is 1.19 acres developed with a ranch-style single-family dwelling addressed as 124 Center Church Road. The eastern half of the parcel is zoned residential restricted, and the western half of the parcel is zoned residential agricultural. Tract 2 is a 0.73 acre tract of land developed with a ranch-style dwelling addressed as 154 and 156 Center Church Road, and it is zoned residential agricultural. Both properties appear to have access to public water and are served by private septic systems. Surrounding land uses: to the west is a 0.68 acre tract of land developed with a single-family home addressed as 174 Center Church Road and a small outbuilding. It fronts Center Church Road and is zoned RA. To the south, opposite Center Church Road, is a 5.9-acre tract of land developed with a small, unaddressed metal building and a 3-acre tract of land addressed with a single-family home, both of which are zoned residential agricultural. To the north is a vacant 14.5-acre tract of land that is zoned general commercial, which currently does not have road frontage. It's located behind the Tramway Crossing Shopping Center. To the east is Tramway Crossing Shopping Center, which includes a Food Lion grocery store and several retail and restaurant spaces with a large paved parking lot that fronts Jefferson Davis Highway. The existing zoning is currently residential restricted and residential agricultural. The residential restricted zoning district is established to provide areas for low-density single-family uses. Property within the zoning district should include those tracts which abut or in close proximity to existing large lot single-family development, making this an appropriate transition between rural, agricultural, and suburban uses. Examples of uses permitted by right in the RR zoning district include single-family homes, churches, animal, and crop production. And there's a list of the permitted uses for this zoning district included within the agenda for your reference. The residential agricultural, or RA zoning district, is established to provide areas for low-density single-family uses, low-intensity agricultural operations, as well as agribusiness and supportive industrial and commercial uses. The RA zoning protects and preserves valuable agricultural areas, implements agricultural protection zoning, establishes performance standards for rural businesses, and preserves rural areas. Examples of uses permitted by right within the RA zoning district also include single-family homes, churches, animal and crop production, and there is a list of the permitted uses within your agenda for your reference. Now, the proposed zoning is general commercial C2, and this is intended to provide areas for general commercial activities designed to serve the community, such as shopping centers, repair shops, wholesale businesses, and retail sales, with limited outdoor display of goods and limited outdoor operations. Examples of uses permitted by right within the C2 zoning district include convenience stores with or without gas sales, car washes, restaurants with or without drive-thrus, motor vehicle sales, service and towing, and offices for professional services. There's also a list of permitted uses in the C2 zoning district included within your agenda for your reference. And if rezoned, all of the uses in the general commercial C2 zoning district would be allowed, and any future redevelopment of the subject property would be required to meet the current development standards of the UDO. Regarding transportation, Tract 1 has approximately 198 feet of road frontage. Tract 2 has approximately 106 feet of road frontage, for a combined road frontage of 304 feet on Center Church Road. This is an NCDOT maintained public street with a 60-foot right-of-way. Any new development that proposes to connect to Center Church Road must be approved by NCDOT to verify compliance with all applicable regulations. The site is not located within a floodplain, a watershed conservation overlay district, or a designated historic district. The Plan San Lee Land Use Plan, which is our recently adopted long-range plan, identifies the future use place type for this tract as mixed-use activity center, which has the following characteristics. It facilitates development of large-scale integrated mix of uses, single master planned unit but contextually integrated into surrounding development pattern, including strong mobility linkages, with close proximity to highway interchanges and major arterials. Planning staff recommends that the board support this rezoning request. In making this recommendation, staff finds that the rezoning proposal from residential restricted and residential agricultural to general commercial C2 appears to be in keeping with the land uses described in the Plan San Lee Land Use Plan. This request appears to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the location of the site along a busy roadway and adjacent to an existing shopping center, that this may allow the larger commercially zoned lot tract to the rear to have public road frontage and the availability of public utilities. It should, however, be noted that staff would not recommend the continuation of C2 zoning westward along Center Church Road, as there will be a need to buffer between the commercial area near the intersection of Center Church Road and US Highway 1 and the residential area. Please note that information presented at the public hearing should also be considered regarding a final decision on the requested zoning map amendment. This concludes my presentation, and I'll pause to allow the chairman to open the public hearing and make myself available for questions.
Okay. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. Would anyone like to come and speak in favor of this project? And as you're coming to the mic, if you will state your name and address for the public record, please. Hey, Mark.
Good evening, Board. Hope you're doing well. I'm Mark Laskowski, 3018 Carrington Lane in Sanford, North Carolina, and I'm the gentleman that's asking for this consideration tonight for rezoning this property to commercial property. I'm the owner also of the C2 that's northbound, the 14.5 acres as well that's behind the shopping center. Basically, I purchased those two homes with the intent to have some road frontage to Center Church Road. So if you guys have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else like to come and speak in favor of the project? At this time, would anyone like to come and speak in opposition to the project? Okay, at this time, we'll declare the public hearing closed and give our planning board a moment to move to their other location. Thank you very much. Good to see all of you. Thanks for being here. Okay. At this time, like to go on to our next item, which is a proclamation for Black History Month. We're in February. Our community resident, Mr. Bob Finch, requested this proclamation. And again, we all know February is considered Black History Month in our country. And we have a proclamation here that I would like to present to Mr. Irvin Fox. And at this time, I'll read it as he comes up to the podium, if that's okay.
That's okay.
All right. Whereas Black History Month is a time to celebrate the contributions of African Americans who have helped to shape the history of our local community, state, and nation. And whereas, according to Data USA, Lee County, North Carolina is home to approximately 11,296 African American residents, which is approximately 19% of Lee County's total population. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by African Americans to Lee County's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development. And whereas the observance of Black History Month calls our community's attention to the continued need to champion equality and to build a society that lives up to its ideals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Lee County Board of Commissioners proclaim February 2019 as Black History Month in Lee County, North Carolina, and commend its observance upon all residents, dated this 18th day of February 2019. And is there a motion?
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. I'll come down and present this to you. Thank you so very much for being here. Here, I think she wants a picture. You may be looking.
Sent it to EO school.
We could have a little bit of
Thing. Let me say thank each of you for this proclamation. It's a great thing, and it's people like you that make the world better, okay? We thank you very much on behalf of the local branch of the NAACP, as well as the state and well as the national. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Thank you for all you do. Okay, at this time, are there any public comments? No? Okay. All right. All right, moving on to old business, an update on the memorandum of understanding for placing a mural honoring Dr. Mary Margaret McLeod on a county-owned building. Ms. Parrish?
Yes. If you recall, the Suzanne Reeves Literary Club had spearheaded the effort to raise the funds to put a mural honoring the life of Dr. Margaret McLeod. They came to the county back in the fall asking to put it out here in front of the government center. The board did approve the MOU that's in the package at the regular meeting in November 19th of 2018. Sent that approval to Eddie Winstead with the Suzanne Reeves Literary Club, and there was some concern on part of the club that it may not be responsible for any of the future addition, changes, and alterations of the mural. After that, I've also had some further conversation with Liz Whitmore with the Historical Preservation Commission, and she can explain some more about the details of the agreement that we would enter into and the process that we would go about entering into the agreement with the artist. But since it sounds like that ultimately the alterations and alterations to the mural may fall on the county, I just felt like it was better to bring it back to the board. And if the board so chooses to move forward still, we can just remove those sections of the MOU and still have the chair sign it, and then I think the literary club would be willing to sign it at that point as well. But Liz has asked if we could just go into more detail about the process.
Hey, good evening.
Hi.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for inviting me. I just wanted to thank you for having me, and thank you for considering joining our public arts program. It's really been a success. We have people coming from all over the state and out of the state to see our murals, and many tours have been given, and so it'd be really wonderful if this could happen. I do want to, when I was looking at the MOU, I did see a couple little things. I didn't see this beforehand, so number 2, where it says DSI will monitor the use of the funds, they are just the holding part of the money. They don't oversee it. I just say, this is the amount I need, and they write a check. So really it's overseen by the Appearance Commission. So I really think that would be more appropriate if the Appearance Commission and the Public Arts Subcommittee were replaced there.
Okay.
And then on number 6, it talks about the club will enter into a contract with the artist. Really, the contract would be something that would go through my office. I would write that, and it would be through the DSI, Downtown Sanford Incorporated, and also through the city. The city would not have any funds in it. These ladies did a marvelous job raising a lot of money very quickly. I was very impressed. And then, naturally, you wouldn't, let's see, deterioration of the artwork, that's number 8. So we were talking, I think what's really important is that it's understood that in the contract, we require the artist to first off have a $2 million insurance policy in case of any accidents. That's a requirement that we have. Number 2 is that every single contract, they are required to maintain that mural for up to 10 years. So if someone were to tag it, put some graffiti on it, or had some minor damage, or there was some peeling, that artist is responsible for repairing it during that 10-year period. And usually that's up to an amount of $250. Now, if a car runs into it, that's a whole different ballgame. That's your building being addressed. So I just wanted to make sure that that was understood. And then also, number 4 on the last page talks about the county shall become the sole owner of all artwork. We actually put all the murals into a mural map, and we also make note cards. So I want to make sure that that would be something that would be allowed. I think maybe that might have to be included in this memorandum of understanding also. So we're not in violation of that. I'd be glad to answer any questions about the process. We have not even sent out a request for proposal yet. We are in the process of gathering information. We intend to hopefully have that RFP out by mid-March. We give the artists 2 months to get back to us, At that time, we review what's been submitted, then we would bring it before you, and you would make the final decision. If you want any changes, you relay that to us. No advertising is allowed. We cannot have Fanny Cream on it, because Fanny Cream is still sold. So I just want to make that very clear. And then after it's approved, then the contracts are signed, and we will get an easement agreement from the county for the person to do the work. Then you get on the schedule. You have to give a 50% deposit. So the artist may not even get to doing the artwork till 3 months later, or it might be 2 months, or if they have we've had a really, really rainy year, so this has really put a lot of the artists back. So I just want you to understand that once it's signed and a deposit is made, it might be 6 months. I have never had to wait that long with the murals that we have had, do the ones for the city. So that's something that people don't tend to understand too much, that they're really excited and they want it to happen quickly. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I think this is a new venture for the county,
Sure.
obviously, and all of us, all the feedback I've ever gotten from the city murals has been phenomenal. Everybody loves them, so I think it's great that we're included in it. I'm sorry it's taken so many painstaking steps, but with it being a public building,
Sure.
we have to do our due diligence where that's concerned. And I think, has everybody's questions been addressed?
Well, you actually raised more questions.
Oh, okay.
It would seem to me that the county is merely providing the canvas. Your organization will render the drawing, I suppose.
No, sir. We sent out a request for proposal. That goes out to the North Carolina Arts Council. They
Okay.
do an email blast every 2 weeks, so it goes out to all the artists on that list. And then some of them are not on that list, and I have those artists' names and email address. They go out to them. They get an RFP with tons of information about the person or the subject matter.
Well, I mean, once you put it on the wall, there's a condition here for 10 years of maintenance,
Yes.
and who's responsible for making that request? The county? At that point, if something goes wrong
Okay.
with the rendering, for example, is it anything like the Martin Luther King Park down here on Horner?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether it's dirt or what the condition is. It might be mold, I don't know. But it would appear to me that the Martin Luther King statue needs to be cleaned. Now, would that request go to, I know that belongs to the city, I think. Would that go to the city and they would be expected to clean it? How would that work?
The artist would contact me, or you would contact me, or I actually do a survey every 6 months of the murals.
Okay.
And plus I drive by them every day,
Right.
coming to and from work. So
Okay.
I keep a detailed list of conditions, and if I see anything, I contact the artist.
Okay.
So that's how that works. You would be out of that loop, sort of, but if you saw something and I missed it, you could feel free to contact me, and I take care of it.
All right. Well, I'm contacting you on that one, but I'm actually just trying to figure out how we go forward. If is damage to the building, the county building, we're expected to take care of that part of it, I was imagining.
Well, yeah, like if a car ran into it.
No, not anything, the brick, a brick fell out of place or something along
Right.
that line, we'd be doing that. But after that 10-year period, what happens?
Then the artist is released from that.
Okay,
And then the murals last anywhere between 10 to 15 years. Some last longer. They use a very high grade industrial paint. Costs about $100, $150 a gallon. They power wash the wall, they prime the wall. So it's done per guidelines of muralists.
Okay.
And then what happens if it does start to fade? We do a fundraising campaign
To touch them up.
to touch them up,
Right, right.
yes.
Mhm.
And I have to admit, raising money for murals is not easy. I mean, people love them,
Yeah.
but when it comes down to it, it's hard to get money quickly. And this group of ladies raised $8,000 in less than 7 weeks, which I about fell over. I was so impressed. So if it's something that's really near and dear to somebody's heart, you know, people come forward.
Okay.
You're the artist, so I'm just going to ask you, one of the things in the conversation I had earlier today was that, you know, once the painting is there and you do need touch-ups, maybe like senior class level art students maybe could do that as a project. No, okay, that's why I'm looking at
Yeah.
you to
We
get
have,
your.
you know, everybody wants to involve students.
Right.
And it's a great thing, but we have a very high standard.
No, that's fine. That's
And,
what,
you know, I really want to maintain that standard, and muralists want to repair their own work. They don't want someone else to
Okay.
repair it.
okay.
You know, it'd be like going in and repairing, you know, the Mona Lisa, like me going in, you know.
Understood. Okay. No, that answered my question.
Okay.
That's because I'm I'm a novice at all this.
Oh, the concept is wonderful. I watched some of the news last week over in Durham. They were showing some of their buildings. They're really beautiful. And I suppose the upkeep is being done pretty regularly. It looked good.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest concern,
Sure.
maintaining the overall appearance, since they're going to be,
And that's a very legitimate concern,
Yeah.
and I don't blame you for that. I would hate to see that stop any mural from being done, because then we wouldn't have any of these beautiful murals up.
well,
So, you know, I think that's to be taken into consideration, but also, you know, it being part of the team would be really exciting.
well, if it takes place, we're part of the team. We're giving you the canvas. So,
Yes, you would be.
right. So we're already part of the team.
Yeah. I would also like to say, we have a big dedication after every mural's completed, where we would have, you know, all the county commissioners would be invited. We usually serve food, everything is free. So we make it a real celebration. Every dedication is a celebration.
Is this a city program?
Yes, it is. I'm a city employee, and it
Right.
started with the city.
I'd like to have the city tied to it, the overall maintenance.
Well,
Because you'd be
I
the
can't speak
contact.
for the city.
No, I know that. I'm not asking.
The city's not tied to any of the murals for maintenance at all.
And I-
Because they're on private buildings, is that?
Well, I'm not,
They're all private buildings, yes.
Yeah.
I'm just addressing the ones that the county would be participating in, is all I'm saying.
I understand.
I'd feel more comfortable knowing the city's going to bankroll any maintenance problem as a result of the mural, that's all. Since you all make the decisions, we're just providing the canvas.
Well, the decision of the actual mural will come before you to make. We wouldn't make that.
Well, but it got here because of you, right?
They got here because we had a group of ladies that wanted to honor Dr. Mary Margaret McLeod. So they realized that I was the person that was
person.
doing the public art, and they came to me, and
That's right,
that's how it started.
okay.
Any more questions? Okay, so we've had some good suggestions. I appreciate you reading over the MOU again and making some good suggestions for
Thank
some
you.
tweaks. So I guess we have, I'll look at you, Ms. Parrish. We have on number 2, changing it to the Appearance Commission.
Public Arts Subcommittee. Mhm.
And then There was a second note that I
I
missed.
think it was on number 6. It's not that the club would enter to the contract. I think it's DSI,
Right,
Downtown Severny Inc.
Right.
would enter the contract. Is that
Right.
correct, Ms. Whitmore? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
okay.
And then 4, under the county agrees to that there would be a,
To allow selling of the
Included in the-
renderings or whatever with
To the
note
very
cards
map.
and on the maps.
Include
and-
you on the map.
Right, that
we
kind of
would
thing.
word that somehow.
Okay, so,
And then I think we would have to remove number 5 because the Suzanne Reeves Literary Club can't agree to
right,
remove it or maintain it afterwards.
right.
Okay, is that everything?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I had it correct. So again, I'm looking at council. Do we need to rewrite it and bring it back again? Or can there be a motion to approve it as amended? What's your comfort level?
I mean, I kind of defer to the board. If the board is okay with, if the motion is made to amend it, I mean, I can amend it and still send it out before the chair signs it, just for that, a final blessing. But I mean, I'm okay with agreeing, or doing that without a motion to amend that way.
Okay. Let me get one step clear again. If I wanted to offer a renderings to a city or county building, it would go through
Yes.
your operation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that's very important to note in there. We make the decisions for the county, but there are going to be people coming behind this event that will probably come to us instead of going to the right source. And that's what I've always said, make sure they know where to start the process and how it actually works.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out to include it in this necessarily.
It doesn't have to be in there.
Okay, okay.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But
I'm
just
fine
in
with that.
general, if someone were to
But
contact.
there needs to be something in writing somewhere that shows you how to get
As a
started.
policy.
Yes, and not here.
Right.
I've said that from day one.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion in one direction or another?
I'll move to approve it with the amendments. Still not happy with the maintenance part of it, but
Step out on faith.
no, I'm still not gonna be happy, I'll just say that. But I'll offer the motion to approve with
Okay.
the amendments.
Any more questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Look forward to the, rendering that we can see. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
We'll keep
you.
you updated.
Thanks.
Okay. Our next item of all business is request for order of the tax collector to advertise the 2018 delinquent real property taxes per NCGS 105369A. Hey, Ms. Yao.
Good evening, Commissioners. So I'm here tonight to request an order to advertise the 2018 delinquent tax lien. As you know, we're required to present to you on the first Monday of February a list of all unpaid taxes at that time. So that list was submitted to the clerk and posted on for your viewing on Monday, February 4th. And so tonight, I'm requesting an order to advertise the tax lien and send out our advertisement and debt set-off notices. On February 4th, the amount of unpaid taxes for 2018 was $2,638,225.34. Just to update you, as of today, that number is now $1,975,529.99. Also note that the earliest we can advertise in the Sanford Herald by statute is 30 days from the order, so we would not be able to advertise any sooner than March the 20th. So we will probably pull our accounts for the ad of early March. It takes a couple of weeks to get that ad ready for the Herald.
Move to approve.
Okay, any more questions, comments from Ms. Chow? We appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you. And just a side note, reappraisal notices are in the mail.
In the mail.
We-
They're in the mail.
Yes. We've had a busy day, but a good day.
Okay, good, good. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Check is in the mail.
And Mary, you said the advertisement will be after March 20th, is that right?
That would be the
Okay.
earliest,
Okay,
so it will
all right.
be after that, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, new business. Ms. Karen Kennedy, update of our S3 Connect goings on in the county. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here.
Hard to believe it's been a year since I've been here to give you an S3 Housing Connect update.
Great.
Hadn't had any other projects before you, so they're new faces. Welcome. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about everything that's been going on with S3 in the last year. We have made a lot of forward movement. I have Jeffrey Rawlings with us again this year, and Terry Alaba, our consultant that has worked with this project. And I want to tell you, since we have been doing this, I continue to say at public events that it has been the most encouraging project that I've ever worked on in my short 30-plus years. And I've never seen such forward movement and community support, elected official support, agencies, statewide and local, and just interested citizens. And I think that speaks highly of our community. So I think that everything we do with our representation for the homelessness initiative is something that we should all be proud of and what we've done to date. So I'd like to pass the torch on to Jeffrey Rawlings, and then he'll be followed up by Terry Alaba.
Thank you, ma'am. Hey, Mr. Rollins, good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Good evening. It's good to be here. Thank you guys for giving us an opportunity to present before you again. Yeah, of course, I come before you as chairperson of S3 Housing Connect, and I wanted to give you just a little information as to what we've been doing for the course of this past year. S3 is made possible primarily because of the support we've gotten from you, from the county and from the city, from the elected officials. You guys really got behind what we're doing, and we felt that we have felt that support in our facility usage, for also with financial support, and with you being in attendance in our meeting and involving us in giving us your input and being involved in what we're doing. We've also got a lot of support from your staff, from the county staff, from the city staff, as far as providing data for us and providing a place for us to meet. So that has been invaluable for getting us together and allowing us to be able to affect our neighbors who are going through homelessness. We also were blessed to be able to have Rachel Picard, who was the intern that worked with us, and she presented last year very passionately. She presented last year, and she has since graduated from NC State and is going on. And she said that being a part of this actually made her change which direction she wanted to go in. So if nothing else has occurred, we have affected a young person's decisions as to what they want to do and which way they want to go with their life. And I think in this day and time with where our youth are going, that's monumental in itself. Some of the strengths of S3 is we have drawn a lot of support from our faith-based community. They have really, really, really come forward and come alongside of us in ways that, in all honesty, I didn't anticipate. I've been overwhelmed, extremely overwhelmed by their willingness to come forward, by the heart that they bring to it, by the tenacity that they're bringing to every endeavor that we set forward. We put it on the table, they jump to it, and they get the job done. Our local shelters also have come through. We have Haven, I think Sherry's here, their executive director. We've also had Family Promise as well working with us, and we've had the new shelter, Bread of Life, Extreme Weather Shelter, and OMI. OMI has stepped up and taken ownership of the buildings that they own. We have a couple of their board members, one board members here, and their shelter services director here. They've adopted what's called the low barrier approach. Up until that point, it didn't exist here. Low barrier means, in a very, very short word, very, very short sentence, it means live through the night. And we'll deal with whatever tomorrow. That has not always been the case here. What the case here was previously was, if you were here, if you went to the shelter and you stayed there and you left, for 30 days you couldn't come back. Regardless of the weather, regardless of your circumstances, you simply couldn't come back. If you came to the door and prior to you were outside, it was 30 degrees, you were cold, you drunk a beer, and you came to the door smelling of that beer, you were not allowed to stay, regardless of the weather, regardless of the circumstance, and regardless of the temperature. If the person who answered the door did not like red and you wore red and they decided you couldn't stay because you had on red, that was allowed. Now, the shelters here have adopted the approach that if you come to the door, we're going to let you in, provided that you follow 3 simple rules. Those rules are: respect yourself, respect each other, and respect the house. Provided you are not a danger to yourself or anyone else, they'll allow you to stay. That has had a tremendous impact on what I do with Rapid Rehousing, which is the housing of persons who experience homelessness. That change in itself has been a game changer for this area. I can't tout that enough. And I want to say thank you again. We'll move forward. Okay, I want to talk to you also about coordinated entry. We are kind of on the forefront of something that's happening in the state, and that is our coordinated entry, which is how we bring people into the system. If somebody is homeless, right now, if they're homeless, they may come to my office at Community Action, or they could go to one of the shelters, or they could go to DSS, or they could go to the Enrichment Center, or to a church and may get tossed around, go to the breadbasket or the library, and you're all over the place. You've already lost your place, you're already stressed, you're already trying to figure out what you're going to do with your children for the course of the night, and you're being bounced from place to place to place to place. 211, we have partnered with Kendra Martin at United Way, and they are going to raise our tier on 211. Right now there are, I think it's 4 tiers, and we're at one of the mid tiers. We're going to go to the highest tier. Going up to that level means that when someone calls 211, there'll be a person on the line who specializes in Lee County and Sanford, and they can tell you, okay, you're experiencing homelessness, you're a male, we'll send you to the shelter. That'll be the one-stop shop from that point forward. Someone can show up at DSS, and DSS can give them a phone, and they can call right there and make the call in person. Now, I'll tell you, as someone who has been homeless before, one of the biggest problems is shame. I was very, very ashamed. Came from a very good upbringing. My mother would not have understood. My grandfather was a Pentecostal minister. I couldn't go home and tell them that. I also didn't want to tell anyone else. So being able to pick up a phone and have a person there and no one else hear it but that person, I have to face that person. I can't imagine how much faster it would have brought me out of my situation. This is a way to let someone maintain their dignity while they try to get back on their feet. And we're on the forefront of that. The city of Charlotte adopted it. It worked well. And since that point, a couple of other towns are going on, and we're at the forefront of that. So that will be coming, and within a couple of months, it'll be up and running here. And anyone that comes to you that is experienced, you can hand them your telephone if they don't have a phone of their own, and have them dial 211, and they can get some help right there on the spot with someone who knows about Sanford and who knows about Lee County. Last thing I wanted to go over prior to handing off to Terry. Before I do that, I want you to see S3 because we're in the house tonight. So everyone from S3, this will also include some people who may be currently or formerly experiencing homelessness. So the impact is already felt. Everyone involved, please stand.
Thank you.
This is a portion of our group.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, the last thing I want to go over is OMI, Outreach Missions, something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to give you their stats for the year. It's a lot of stats, but it's some very important stats, very important statistics. In 2018, 249 persons were served. 62 were transient, which means they stayed for a night or two and moved on. 162 participated in the transformative program. That is the program where we try to get you into housing and provide services. 38 veterans were served. 86 persons who did not have ID were taken to get ID. 152 medical referrals were made. 91 mental health referrals were made. 86 substance abuse referrals were made. 130 DSS referrals. 71 to Social Security. 141 persons left with employment. 144 left with housing. 19,320 meals were served, and 6,441 nights of shelter were offered and provided to persons who did not have it. That's all I have, and I'm going to hand it off to Terry, who will give you some more information regarding that. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak before you.
Thank you, Mr. Rollins. Thank you for being here. Good evening.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
My name is Terry Albaum, the Community Impact Coordinator with the North Carolina Coalition in Homelessness. It's been my great joy to have the opportunity to work with Sanford and Lee County over about the last year and a half. As this community has rallied, both its public officials like you all, as well as its private citizens that you see here tonight, to really develop a comprehensive response to homelessness in Sanford and Lee County. I have written a report that you have, I think has been distributed to you all, the 2018 report, and I'm just going to make a few comments out of that, and I hope that you'll have the opportunity, if you haven't already, to review it and kind of see some more details on what S3 Housing Shelter Services Stability has been doing. Specifically, just to add a little bit to Jeffrey's last point, Outreach Mission has done a remarkable job of making this transformation to a low barrier shelter, has really stepped up its relationships with the rest of the community to make possible those outcomes that you heard Jeffrey reference. I had the great joy of doing a board retreat with Hamer and other members of the board. It was remarkable to hear these citizens' commitment to this kind of effort. I've been working on the homeless issue in Durham and around the state for 30 plus years, and I just can't help but get inspired when I see that kind of commitment that comes from your citizens here. So I applaud the efforts that Outreach Mission has stepped up to do, and I'm now going to work with some other parts of the state, and I'm touting these guys a lot. And it's not just them, but it's also been the Bread of Life, which stepped forward to open an extreme weather shelter, opening on nights when it was the conditions were very hazardous to health, and you could have some people dying in the night without their support. So they also had the opportunity to do a board retreat with them, and again, I found a group of committed citizens who are not being paid at all for that effort, and yet who want to respond to help ensure that when folks become homeless in this city and in this county, they don't remain there. And so seeing that kind of work has been really wonderful to observe, and it's been a quite unique public-private partnership that's been going on. And I'll say when the group formed, S3 Housing, didn't know exactly what it was going to do, but figured out its way, and it came up with its name and also its mission statement. And I direct you to page 3 on the report there. S3 Housing Connect seeks to bring together the needed resources in Sanford and Lee County to create a coordinated and comprehensive approach to ensure that homelessness is prevented whenever possible or is otherwise a rare, brief, and non-recurring experience. That is a great mission statement. I've been using this, I've been sharing with people because I think it really keeps the focus on vision while at the same time denoting that kind of partnerships that have to be developed to make that happen. And I think it provides a great guidance not only for S3 housing, but for you all as the county commissioners and the city council to rally around and take note of. Some other brief things I'll comment on is the forward progress on rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing is an intervention with people who are homeless to ensure that they access permanent housing quickly and they do not languish in a shelter or unsheltered situation too long. So rapid rehousing has been used to help house many folks here in Lee County. Certainly Jeffrey's organization has provided a lot of lead on that. You all stepped up by combining efforts with the city and providing $35,000 this last year toward that effort. It also ensures that when people come into Outreach Mission and are working with Brad here, who's here tonight, that they have a means and support of how to get out. So it helps them with rental and utility assistance, as well as negotiating with landlords who may be reluctant to rent to folks that are moving out of homelessness. So that's been a critical component. Another one that I'll briefly mention is the work that's been going on with the Housing Authority here in Sanford to develop a project over on Linden Avenue that will be 5 units for people moving out of homelessness. Karen has done a lot of work on that, recently obtained a $790,000 grant toward the rehabbing of that and making that available. So there's a lot of work going on to help people, families and individuals get out of homelessness. And that's the critical point. The solution to homelessness is housing. Doesn't mean that there's not an importance for shelter. There's a big importance for shelter, but it's important for it to be linked in to these resources that help people get into permanent housing, and that the community is involved in making that happen. I'll make a few brief points to conclude my remarks. I wanted to say something about the 2018 point in time count. As you all probably know and have read about in the paper or maybe even participated in, each year across the country, count is made of those experiencing homelessness, both in unsheltered and sheltered situations. And it gives you a snapshot of what homelessness looks like on a particular night. And one of the values is comparing that year to year of how that is shifting and changing. There was recently another count done at the end of January, I guess just a week or two ago now. And those numbers have not been confirmed yet. So I don't have those numbers, but I wanted to, and I included the 2018 numbers as an appendix. But I will call your attention to page 6, where I make some comments here about the point in time count, because there's one very glaring number that stood out to me, and that is 51 persons, so 51 of 95 persons who were counted on that night in January. 53.6% of them were staying in unsheltered places. So this was people in camps, in cars, and places unfit for human habitation. The state ratio is 26%, and the national ratio is 35%. So Sanford and Lee County are well above the state and national estimates for a number of unsheltered folks. A lot of times this is due to absence of low barrier shelters, which we now have heard about the transition of that from Jeffrey over this last year. And so we, over time, will see some impact on that. Also, just the availability of affordable housing. So there's a real need for that to continue. And so that I submit to you that those folks that are out there unsheltered, they tend to be people who have high service needs as well. They are the folks that show up in your emergency room for health care. They are hospitalized frequently. They also can be the folks that are being arrested. And if you start looking at the cost, as many communities have, of what it's costing you to leave them homeless, it makes more sense to invest that money in that community effort in helping to secure housing. So as a word of direction, I would encourage Sanford and Lee County to continue to think about how are we going to develop or access housing for this unsheltered, chronically homeless population that's going to need some services along with that housing. And I think that's going to be very important for you all to continue to build upon the great model that you have and make progress moving forward. Tonight and tomorrow night, we do go present to city council tomorrow night, but this concludes my time with Sanford. It's been wonderful, and I'll come back most any time, and certainly take a phone call from Jeffrey and Karen all the time, but my work has asked me to move on to some other counties and other places in the state that are also really struggling and really want to make a difference. One of them that we're having some conversations with is your neighboring Moore County, and I might bring you all back into that conversation, because we not only need a city-county response, but we need a regional response to homelessness. And so it's been my great pleasure to have this opportunity. I have recommended to the city someone that could step in and I think help pick up the ball and carry forward. His name is Stan Holt. And so I hope that, as you all know, in the package that you all have approved this year, it helped pay for me to come and be with you all over this last year. And as we move forward, this person that I've recommended, I've known for 30 years, and he's got a lot of experience, and I think could really help the organizations develop some of their fundraising and strengthen them. So with that, I'll conclude my remarks, but I know Jeffrey and Karen and also members of the S3 Housing Connect are available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Karen? Yeah, go ahead, go
Are
ahead.
we seeing any decrease, whoever could take them? Are we seeing any decrease from the downtown homeless population moving toward the various shelters as opposed to?
Absolutely, yes. We're kind of familiar, we all are. If you're downtown, you eat downtown kind of frequently, you'll know that there's certain people that you see all the time. The shelter, what we're getting now, that the shelter has also become a day shelter. If you're living there, you can stay there during the day, but you couldn't before. So there are people that we would often see in the park that are not in the park. They have been moved, a couple in particular, have been moved into housing, into permanent housing, and are doing very well, very well. And we have some who were often in the library, and the librarian has let us know that the traffic there has greatly decreased because they have somewhere else to be and are able to do something during daytime.
And this will be for outreach missions. Now, in the past, you used to let those folks stay there for 90 days, and if they went to church, they could stay another 30. And I'm kind of looking at Brad because he was running that when I was dealing with that over there. But now I've been told that as long as you're abiding by the rules, you can have longer stays there.
That is correct.
Yeah.
As long as they're abiding by the rules and reaching their goals each week. We do a goal check each week, and if you reach your goal, you get to stay there another week. And they set their own goals. And it takes as long, some people it may take 45 days, some people it may take 6 months, because if they're waiting for their disability checks or something. So as long as you're helping out and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, there's no limit on the time that you can stay there. But we do try to, 45 days, 90 days, we do a review at 30, 60, and 90 days. And at that point, we decide how much longer, we'll extend your stay as long as it takes to get everything that you need.
And that applies to both men and the women.
Yes,
Women's.
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? That's good to hear, because I have heard stories in other places where they're almost there, but they hit that deadline and they have to move on.
It was happening here.
Yes,
It was happening.
well, yes, but
That's not the case.
not anymore, so that's a good thing. Yeah.
It does note the importance of what Jeffrey's organization provides in rapid rehousing is that there's a push, but it's not, as Brad says, it can be flexible, and so both of those things are important, I think, to note.
And I just wanted to say I had the privilege of participating in the pit count, and it was encouraging. Yes, it was about completing the survey, but it was more than that. I think it was a chance for the community to just love on one another, and it actually happened on the coldest night of the year. It was in the teens, and it's just a reality check, and so you're doing a good job, and it was encouraging to see people in the community getting out at 1 a.m. and reaching out and just loving on the people down the street.
Thank you for that. That event was highly supported by individuals just like you, churches. We had 140 care packages we took out that night. We had over 50-plus volunteers. One batch went out at 10 p.m., another went out in the 4 to 5 a.m. range. So we are seeing changes.
Yes.
And as Jeffrey has said to you numerous times, what we've learned from this is there are people who choose to be homeless and they want to stay that way, and no matter what we do is going to change that. And we know that, and we're learning to recognize that. And when we deal with individuals of that, I'll let you know, but there are another core group that just need a hand up. And that has been very rewarding. Thank you. What you're going to see from us in the next year is a push for funding for Outreach Mission to combine their two shelters. They have a women's shelter and a men's shelter, and we'd like to get them in one location. We're seeking grants with the assistance of other nonprofits. Ms. Romley's helping us, Kate and Haven, Sherry's helping us. We're trying to work on any grants we can find to make the shelters happen. So you're going to see some initiatives where we need some funding and some campaigns. And we hope Stan Holt's going to help teach the nonprofits how to do their own fundraising and not depend on local government. So I know that you will be
Sounds good.
encouraged by that, as will the city. Thank you for this initiative.
Oh, thank you very much for all y'all do. Makes a difference. Thank you. Okay, item B was moved to consent. So we'll take up the next item on the flooring issue with Mr. Spivey. Just one second, Mr. Spivey. Miss Glover, grab Pam. Miss Glover, I did get your text, but I was driving. I'll call you tomorrow.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Mr. Spicer.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening to y'all. I'd like to come to you tonight requesting that I move forward with the new flooring on the 4th floor here at DSS. What the plan is now, we're going with a vinyl flooring. We have carpet like it's in this room here. It's not very sanitary. We have a lot of traffic, as you can see, that goes through DSS in a lot of areas, so I'm trying to go with something that's more sanitary. It's a vinyl tile, it's on state contract, and I'm asking that you allow me to move forward with this tonight.
This was budgeted.
Yes, it is budgeted. Yeah, I budgeted last year's budget. And I'm going to try to shoot some more this year, too. Hopefully.
We'll see.
How's the roof?
Roof, I'm looking at some stuff this coming year I think would be good for this year. I've got some areas that we are going to have to do some recoating, but I think I'll be good until next year on that. We're having some roof repairs done today. Some places where they found, we try to stay on top of that, and thanks to Mr. Trumpman and Lisa, they work with me well to make that happen as well.
Okay. Okay. Any more questions for Mr. Spivey? So motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank y'all so much.
Thank
Y'all have a
you
good
for
night.
all you do. You too. Take care. Okay, next item on our agenda is the financial report. Ms. Minter. Good evening.
Good evening. On page 92 of your agenda package, you will find the financial report for the month of January. A couple things to note. Please remember, as usual, that sales tax run 3 months behind, so don't be alarmed by that percentage. Tax collections as a percentage of the budget through January 2019 are 2.2% ahead of the same period last year, and you can see that we've even made further strides in that number since then. In reviewing expenditures, the percentage used target is 58.33%. As I've explained to you, now I have to include the encumbrances on your report, so a lot of our departments look to be exceeding. However, if I back out the encumbrances, you only have about 4 departments that are exceeding that targeted percentage. One is finance, and that is due to the annual audit fee. Strategic services, which is due to upfront payment and maintenance agreements. Soil conservation is overdue to the payment for their new shelter.
in juvenile detention, which you know we have no control over, is over or ahead of that percentage, but we will continue to monitor that to see if we need to bring a budget amendment to the board before the end of the year. Sales tax reports through the month of November are attached. You will see, as we had hoped, our numbers did go up in November. However, we are still a little bit behind our targeted numbers for the budget. So we hope to see that December is another good month so that we may catch up. But overall, we're closer to the 5% growth mark than we have been. So we're crossing our fingers and hoping that we can keep on target. I'll be glad to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Amy?
Yes, ma'am. Give you an update on the courthouse renovations. We started sending the draft plans around to everybody for review and comment. After tonight, they'll go to everybody. So they only went to a few people on Friday, but everybody that's impacted will have it tomorrow. I apologize for how small the drawing is. I did get you a copy of a colored one that reads a little bit easier if you have your reading glasses on. But I've asked the architect for a larger copy, and I tried to manipulate their PDF, and it was not very responsive to my manipulation to blow this up today. So after about 30 minutes, I just gave up and asked them to send a new one. But if you haven't hear any comments after this week, the plans are still fluid until we give the architect the go-ahead for construction drawings. They're willing to make reasonable changes to the plans. So I already have some lists started right now, and hopefully this will be the last time we go through that gyration. Kiwanis.
Before you move on, do we have any outstanding requests that have not been addressed at the court, at the courthouse?
I would say the answer to that is not, I don't know yet.
Okay.
Most of the requests that have come from the Register of the Deeds and the clerk are small things about where certain offices go and that kind of thing, which we can change pretty easily. But I'm sure there will be some other comments. The clerk was happy with the new jury assembly room. Did hear from her today and talk about that, and the judges will be happy with the judicial wing that we created there. So I'm sure there'll still be some comments from the attorneys and the district attorney about their space, and we have a new design for the magistrate courtroom, which was something that we hadn't discussed. But we did get that in where we would basically, if you've been in the magistrate's court, the magistrate sits up, the judge sits up against the wall where we'll flip that, where people will have to walk by where the judge is, and the judge then has access to the bathroom, through the wall there.
Okay.
So it provides a little bit of security for the magistrate judge there.
How will these others get their concerns on the table? I mean, is there a committee, or are you that committee?
There's a committee of one right now. I've asked the chairman that when somebody gets really concerned that she would go with me, or that meet with them. But I think the one person or the one group that may have the biggest concern is the district attorney. We already knew he would by going across the courtyard to the historic courthouse, but I can't control how big his department has become.
Right.
So, we have space, it's just not where everybody wants it to be. So I think everybody will get enough space. It just, some folks will be unhappy where they're located. And this is a Band-Aid. This is this isn't gonna sustain us for, If we can get 10, I'll be happy.
10 what years?
10 years.
If you can get it. If you can get one more election, you should be happy. That's the concern. But on a more.
I'm not the one elected, you all are.
No, and that's my point.
I understand.
I just think this is a serious matter.
I know.
It is.
I know.
Very serious matter. This is an expensive ordeal. And it shouldn't be taken lightly. So, all
Well,
right.
the problem we've been meeting and working on this for 4 years, John? Close to it? 3? And a half?
I've been working on this now for about 3 years.
Mhm.
So, and really, in earnest, going through design with the architect of what's possible for the last
Year and a
18
half.
months.
Yeah, year and a half.
So we're just at a point now where we've run enough gyrations of where we can put people and gone back and spoken to folks and, I'm sure we're going to have one more gyration of things based on the comments I'm already getting. But the one thing I don't have is I don't have enough space in the new courthouse to put everybody in there and make everybody happy. So, like we had to move probation across the way to the bowling alley. And, we still have about 4,000 square feet over there that we could use. But that would require, again, we're moving somebody across the street and have to have a willing participant. Thankfully, the Register of Deeds is willing to move to the fireplace building. And the board will have to pass a resolution at some point saying that, that was a requirement or that was a need and that kind of stuff. But, she's been a willing participant in that. And so, but just trying to make sure everybody's got a desk and it's safe. The district attorney's office at this point has kind of become, cut off, and it's difficult to maneuver back there, and it's just not a good working space anymore for them.
That's one of the things, I'll give credit to the manager and to the architects. When we first started meeting, I think when we met with all the stakeholders and the Superior Court judge, and that has been probably 3 years ago.
That was when we got started. Yes.
Our challenge is all the space needs, but these buildings they don't lend themselves to a whole lot of renovation very easily.
Right.
But at the same time, the cost of a new building to house all of these departments and all would be out of our reach right now.
One other thing that we have found in this process is that we had thought about trying to connect the two buildings, the historic courthouse and the newer courthouse. And because of the side of the historic courthouse that faces what's historic architecture there with the columns and everything like that, and the historic commission, state historic commission, has said no,
Yeah, they won't let us.
you cannot connect there.
Which would have been a great thing to do and create more space, right there, but.
But that is a no-go because of the
Okay.
historic nature of the courthouse.
Well, the good news is the district attorney's office will have a lot more space than they have now. So.
Everybody will have more space, and I think one of the things that we have discussed this before when I'm looking at Mr. Smith, because he was on the board when we discussed this before, was the mountain of paperwork that the courts create and that we have to keep and store
Forever.
for 40 years or more is computers have not helped us. They have created more paper.
Yep.
And so the space that the clerk needs outside of the larger jury room is really for paper. And it's getting expensive to store paper. So I have a feeling that, that 4,000 square feet over at the bowling alley, that's what eventually will end up over there, is storing paper.
At least it won't cut into your parking spots. Okay. All right.
All right, Kiwanis Family Park, if you've been that way, you will have seen, I mean, I haven't seen that much yellow iron in one place since I worked at a landfill. So there's a lot of equipment out there, and there's a lot going on. After the agenda went out, I did get a detailed outline of their calendar, and you know, they're into, they've closed the restroom building and now working on, you know, new plumbing lines, a new entranceway, and they expect to have all these things done. There's about 82 items that have to be done by the middle of August. So they hope to get a few weeks in before the end of the summer. So if the weather would turn, they might get more done, but we're not getting a lot of help with the weather on this project or out at the airport. We're still struggling on the airport terminal building as well. But I know Mr. Payne, he left earlier, but I know he's been spending a lot of time out there at the park, talking to the patrons who are regular attendees out there and helping them get parked and get onto the trails and stuff. So, you know, I think they have a good plan there. And he has a meeting this week on our park master plans and where they stand on, you know, moving towards construction with what's going to happen at our other parks. Under other items, there was a some short recap there of the interlocal meeting. Be happy to answer any questions. Commissioner Sharp and Dalrymple were there, so they can answer questions as well. We have a meeting of the Multi-Sports Complex Committee this Friday. I think that's at 10:30 in the Buggy Factory Conference Room. I know a lot of people plan on being there. Medicaid is going through some big changes. See Angelina out there. And there is a report in here that goes through some of them. We're still trying to figure out what's going on and what the impact is going to be. One of the departments that'll probably have the biggest impact is Colts. And so we're trying to figure that out, you know, what's going to happen next year around January 1st when it really takes off there. So legislative bills of interest, House Bill 24 is something that came to us. It's a bill that should be following. The bill will allow boards of education to determine if schools can be used as polling places. So 9 of our 10 polling places in Lee County are located in schools. So I came, I've been here about almost 12 years. When I came here, we were just moving polling places out of the fire station buildings into the schools. And really it was for ADA reasons, to make sure everybody had access to a polling place. So now it would be a real concern, you know, for us if all of a sudden we did not have access to the schools anymore. This bill actually came from a problem that occurred in another county during polling, and so now it's looks like it might impact the entire state. So the Association of County Commissioners was not aware of this bill until the managers brought it up to them last week at the managers conference in Winston-Salem, and now all of a sudden everybody's in a panic to address it and hopefully try to avert this from passing or to change the way it is worded at this current time. So there hasn't been a lot of action at the General Assembly, really. So this is really the only bill that we're following at this time. But as others come up, we will let you know. So there are the reports, and then our next meeting is supposed to be March 4th at 6 o'clock, but when I made the agenda, I forgot that the chairman would not be here.
Or the assistant manager, or
Yeah, we would be minus quite a few people because of the NACO conference in Washington, D.C. So we don't have anything that's earth-shattering that needs to be on the March 4th agenda. So if the board wanted to combine the 2 meetings and have 1 meeting in March, it's probably the last month we would be able to get away with that before we get really busy.
just to weigh in on that, one of the things that I talked to the manager about is, with Ms. Campbell, taking a break for a good cause here shortly. As you remember from the retreat, she's wanting to educate all of us on this new agenda process. And so that's going to require either, whichever way you as board members would prefer. Either we could have a workshop type thing and she could educate us all at one time, which would probably save her a lot of time, obviously, or the need in the next month to do that individually with her. And also the discussion that we had at the interlocal committee meeting with the prospect of possibly doing a general obligation bond for the 2020 election for the sports complex and possibly the joint library with CCCC. We might need to have a joint meeting in March, towards the end of March, with our board, CCCC, and then the sports committee members, just for some discussion and walkthrough on that. So we wouldn't meet to death. I had mentioned to the manager if we could combine everything into one board meeting, knowing that we needed those other two things to happen in the next 4 to 6 weeks as well. Just your thoughts on that?
Well, it looks like we gotta move the meeting, but you're not gonna be here.
Well,
Just have one.
One person doesn't stop the show. Y'all can go ahead without me, but that's just what we were discussing was, since we need to do those other things as well. I'm sure John will be here, but in the event he couldn't be here, our assistant manager will be in Washington as well. So, it's a pleasure of the board.
Was this on the upcoming meeting?
Yes, sir.
One meeting, March 18th.
That's the motion, your motion, okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then Ms. Gamble and I will get together and kind of put something out to all of y'all as to what your preference is about the training. Yes, ma'am? Right, okay.
Let me mention before we close out on this item, this House Bill 24, regardless of what direction it goes in, if we continue to use the polling places we currently use, let's get some arrangements or some understanding on use of restrooms.
Yes, that's been a question
That's a problem that
before.
we should not be having at this point in time.
Agreed.
Now, who's responsible? Is it the Board of Elections? Is it the school? Or is this board? Or how is that going to be worked out? Because at some locations, people are allowed to leave the line, go to the bathroom, regardless. Others, they won't allow you to do that. So this is not a pasture. It's not animals we're dealing with. We're dealing with people, and they need breaks. So let's figure something out for the future. I just want to make that note because it is a problem.
So the bill, I did not get a chance to look it up, reading my agenda. Is it giving the authority to the local boards of education to determine whether or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if
I
we
would
have a
figure,
good
I would
relationship with our
have figured at
schools,
this point that they really had the authority as it was. But this bill clarifies it pretty clearly that they can turn the county down.
Okay.
If they so choose. But I think, there are some counties that were putting leverage, so to speak.
What county was it?
I don't know the name of the county.
That would make sense. Okay. All right. Okay.
All right. The last thing we received this construction project PowerPoint from Philip Price, the Vice President of Administrative Services. I just thought the board might be interested in seeing it.
That's nice.
And, all the things that they have done from a construction project perspective. It also discussed some of the things that they've done in Chatham County and Harnett County. as well. So that's really just for your information. Thought it was well done. And I know you made this presentation to the CCCC board. So
Good.
that's it for my report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners' comments? Commissioner Reeves?
I'm good, thank you.
You're good? Okay. Commissioner Shaw?
I've been noticing, and that, don't get on me with Dot here.
I'm not gonna get on
But the county is getting dirtier and dirtier with trash, and I don't know what, excuse me?
Beds and sofas.
Yeah, I mean, something needs to be done. I don't know. We've talked about it and talked about it, but I just want to make that note. So.
Thank you. Duly noted.
We'll keep trying. Public service announcement, throw your trash in a trash can, please. It's not that hard, but.
Big ticket items out there. I've seen 2 weeks, beds, sofas. Pumping station road.
Tires, sets of tires.
Those big, huge widescreen TVs laying out there.
Oh, no. Wonderful.
When we talked about raising fines and how would a procedure,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's the only problem, is somebody's got to report and have
then,
proof.
Yeah, and then our staff has to, the attorneys have to push those tickets forward, because you're not going to get help from the DA to do that. So the city runs into the same thing with their nuisance ordinance and them writing tickets inside the city limits. So it is an issue. Now, we have written some litter tickets, through Joe Cherry, and he takes those and goes. That's mostly small claims kind of thing. And then when we have big dumping situations, we get Ms. Parrish to help, and we've won a couple. But it's tough to get a judge to issue an order to clean up someone's property. One person's trash is another person's treasure.
Dr. Connect?
Madam Chair, I did send an email or a message to you and John regarding the TARPO briefing that we received from the Carolina Corps and Future Interstate for US 4421 by Jed McMillan from the Piedmont Triad Partnership. And there's a focus on getting 421 turned into an interstate. Of course, they did say it would be 10, 15, maybe 30 years down the road, but there's their agenda. They're going to be coming to this board to ask for a resolution in support of it, and once all the boards have that, then the TARPO board will submit a resolution to that effect. Essentially, they were looking at the fact that I-40 and I-95 were closed during these recent hurricanes, and that Fort Bragg is a strategic installation, and when those roads are blocked, they have to have another way in and out, and that would justify it. They are looking at the proposal, and you'll see it when they come in to bring their presentation, but running 421 as an interstate from Greensboro all the way south of Dunn to intersect with I-95.
Wow.
Just south of the I-40, I-95 corridor or intersection. So they'll be coming.
More road construction all the way around. Couple of things, just really briefly, as we get into budget time, and we prioritize things, and just in our personal life too. Hopefully I'm not overstepping, but in our consent agenda, there was the request that we approved from the health board for some additional grant funding. There was no county match. I'm sure most of you remember seeing that, but there were the statistics that Mr. Kane provided to us that Most recently, I think, was the 2011 to 2015 capture were the last numbers of the most recent study. But it stated that, you know, in Lee County, 28% of our children 5 and under live in poverty. So, you know, just personal challenge to each of us, you know, as we go into budget time, to kind of keep that in mind, and some of our priorities, like I said, in the county and our personal life. You know, 28% 5 and under in poverty is, we can do better. The other thing, and I'm kind of looking at Angelina back there, you know, with this change in Medicaid, I'm fortunate enough to be on her board, and sometimes a lot of that goes over my head, and she does her best to kind of walk us all through it. But that, as soon as we kind of have a little bit more information, I'd love for you to come back and kind of present it to the whole board, and not trust me to explain it as well as you can. I know that's coming up. And the last thing, just kind of for Commissioner Smith, and just a discussion, I think maybe for all of us here, you had talked about or had sent out a letter or something about some community meetings. And I was just trying to get some information for any of us that, you know, if we were contacted.
Yes, I was sending letters to churches because when the previous board chair, Charlie Parks, had the initiative of having town hall meetings, and I was going to focus on doing that in the 2nd district. Of course, we discussed it, bringing the 3 at-large commissioners as well, incorporating the fire department, someone from the fire department, safety, sheriff's department. Already talked to Sergeant Estes and the lieutenant, but to focus on that because we had a successful town hall at Trace, and we had a successful town hall that I attended in Charlie's absence at Center Church. Every other place we went to, and I know you went to those, were at schools, and the information didn't get out, and we had one person show up at one, and a handful of folks show up out in Lemon Springs. So I was going to focus on doing that, focusing in 2 or 3 areas within the 2nd district for the information for the citizens in those areas, and using the churches as a conduit to get the information out there, because unfortunately not everybody reads the paper, and you put those little ads in those little columns, and they lose sight of those. And I believe that's what we did when Commissioner Parks had, or Chairman Parks had, the vision of having town hall meetings.
So would we just go, I mean, would we have a program, or?
Would basically, yes.
Okay.
Overview of what the county's doing. I would ask you to speak in that regard.
Okay.
Get the fire departments involved into recruiting, volunteer fire departments, giving information out to the citizens that attend. Sheriff's Department on crime control, community watch, that type of thing, as well as probably social services, having someone speak on behalf of social service, health department. Just a small compendium of government services that are available.
Well, I guess that's what,
Are you talking about representing the Board of Commissioners in this regard?
No. Well, in a way, yes, because I'm going to have the chairwoman there,
okay.
as well as, you know, Chairman or Commissioner Sharp and Commissioner Dodson. In my district.
Because the at-large, okay, I understand.
It's fine in your district. I'm trying to understand how and why that would be necessary. It would seem to me that if you have that kind of agenda, you present it to the board, if you're planning on representing the board, to give up. In other words, having the opportunity to look at the agenda, intent and purpose, before you start setting town hall meetings. I'm not comfortable with that idea, by the way.
Well, it come from the fact that, you know, when you're knocking on doors and you're interacting with people, and you find out that people
literally don't know everything the county does for them or what services are not available through the county, especially when they talk about potholes and things like that.
Well, have you had any response back yet?
I have.
Or have any dates?
I'm just working on one area right now, and yes, I have had discussions with pastors and using them as a conduit to get the information.
Okay, well, just let us know. My only thing would be if we're, talking about using staff, we'd probably have to have a policy for that,
Understand?
So maybe I can get with Ms. Parrish or the manager on that.
Well, I had talked to, when I was talking to Deputy Estes, and Lieutenant's last name escapes me, I was concerned about, if we do this, then of course, they get time off made up during the day.
Right. Just, okay. Were you going to say something?
Excuse me?
Were you going to say something? No, okay.
Not just the policy, you would also want to have a vote on it. This is a whole different agenda. This is almost like an additional board meeting with only partial representation and a targeted area, not an overall town hall meeting,
Right.
a specific district town hall meeting.
Well, we can get together, we'll talk about it, after tonight. Okay. Yeah, well, right, because if you're there and the three of us, then we'll have a quorum. Yes. Okay, no, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just felt like I heard about it and it kind of caught me off guard. So I just felt like we needed to have the whole board figure out what was going on. Okay. At this time, you've got a lot to say.
Yep. I move that we go into closed session per North Carolina General Statute S 143-318.11A3 to consult with attorney to discuss matters pertaining to Lee County's participation in the opioid litigation and matter of Little River LLC versus Lee County per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4 to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of business, and per statute, North Carolina Statute 143-318.11A6 to discuss a personnel matter.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're now in closed session. Thank you.